Gives it to Gabriel Ferreira, number 7, who's making a run. There's nobody in front of him. Oh, man.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NBP, the No Beaters podcast. My name is Gabe, and I'm joined by my co-host Brian and Nate as always, and we're back for another episode of Season 3, Episode 2 of, like I said, the No Beaters podcast. We're no longer the CQQC podcast, so in case you missed Episode 1, the three of us decided that we're going to change things up a little bit, seeing that as things are easing in Ontario when it comes to quarantine and COVID and etc. We decided to kind of go through a rebranding of our podcast. And we are now the No Beaters podcast, or the NBP. Hopefully you guys are able to see it in this episode. We mentioned last week's episode, we had the surprise that we were going to be revealing this episode, and hopefully you saw it prior to us starting to talk for the episode with the intro that Brian has put together, which is super awesome, sort of highlighting our No Beaters podcast theme, which is really cool. We also have more surprises to come. I'm kind of describe it as a season of surprises for season 3 of the podcast. But stay tuned for the rest of the season for a couple more surprises we have up our sleeves. But first things first, the intro, which is super exciting for the podcast. So, boys, this week's episode, we're going to focus on Central Divisionals. It's the first sort of round of regular season play, I guess, if you will, for the 2021-2022 season. Official game status, if you will. So what did you guys think of what was Central Divisionals for QC season?
I want to say one thing starting off. I don't like divisionals. I think the name divisionals comes, like, I get it. We have to, like, separate regionals and whatnot and call it different stuff. I think it needs to be shortened to Divis. The Divis, not divisionals. I'm trying to think back, like, years ago, Glee had, like, a whole bunch of different things, and I can't remember for the life of me all the different names they had. I think it was, like, sectionals was one thing at one point, but I think that's honestly worse. I don't know. It was weird being central when it was Toronto, but I thought it went well. Nice field, a little bit of a cloudy day, but Quidditch was happening. It was great. It's great to be back out there.
For sure. Yeah, so for those that maybe missed it or didn't catch it, so the divisionals, centrals, if you will, Central Divis we'll go with, as Brian said there. So we had Royal City, which was basically Guelph and Royal City. Guelph and Royal City had amalgamated, basically, but they were wearing the Royal City jerseys. Then we had Valhalla, U of T, and we had the Waterloo Warriors, which we'll get to, but they were no longer the Ridgebacks. They had those awesome-looking Waterloo Warriors jerseys. We'll get to that later. So Brian, out of the three of us, was fortunate enough to attend that. So we'll get kind of his more in-depth feedback of the actual tournament and how sort of the teams fared. But Brian, do you want to kind of quickly touch on sort of the final outcomes before we kind of get more into the nitty-gritty of some of the teams and how they fared the tournament? So in terms of how the teams did, maybe not individual scores, but just sort of outcomes of games.
Yeah, absolutely. So 4 teams. Basically, it's a round-robin tournament, and there was a third, fourth place match at the end with a second and first place match for the title. Valhalla, Royal City, Waterloo, and U of T, as Gabe mentioned. Valhalla went 3-0 to start the day. Royal City went 2-1, beating U of T and Waterloo and losing to Valhalla. And Waterloo defeated U of T and lost to Royal City and Valhalla. U of T 0-3 to start. However, for U of T, they decided to bring it a little bit more than Waterloo expected in the third, fourth place match, because they ended up taking it actually quite convincingly. I don't remember the score, but it was out of range when Snitch came on. And it was a great game between the two of them. U of T came out fighting. Wills absolutely killed it, was putting on a show. The passing was great. The communication beater-wise was great between them. It really showed for them, like, solidifying as a team. Valhalla Royal City was the last match of the day. Valhalla took it pretty convincingly, I would say, being on the losing end of it. It's good, solid all around fight. I don't know. It was good to see some real competitive Quidditch, or at least being a part of it again. I think it really did show throughout the day. Like, depth mattered. Once again, people are not used to things. Sloppy passes were going to happen, and the more tired you were, the more sloppy you were going to be. But between depth and experience, I think those were the two big themes that really showed out that day, more than anything else.
Yeah, and like besides Valhalla, like those other three teams, that was their first tournament because Valhalla went to the Ravens Rumble a couple weeks prior, so they did have that experience playing together on a team, and then the other three teams are basically coming back for their first games of Quidditch after like 2-year hiatus. So they definitely had a bit of an advantage that way, on top of their natural skill and talent.
Well, it was crazy too because I think that was the week right after Ravens Rumble, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, either a week or two, but yeah, it was within like 2 weeks. Yeah,
because earlier the Saturday before, I remember because I had to work after it, and I know the Jays were ending their season around that time as well. We had TC practice on the Saturday, and that day, well, it was a little like wonky getting back into things, but people were rehabbing. I saw in Valhalla, and some players didn't make it out to the Sunday divisionals based off injuries and whatnot, and some people dropped out through the day, and that's kind of what happens, right? I think as three experienced players, we all kind of know and have dealt with like the bumps and bruises that kind of come along with Quidditch. And sure, like you have the experience, but you also kind of have the injuries that come along. So like as you play your career, you kind of have to like tread that line of, hey, I'm playing a lot of hard games and I'm playing physical and doing that and not getting hurt and ruining your career going forward. So I think one of the things that really kind of hindered Valhalla was having those injuries pile up. They had the depth to make it out, and it showed. But if you don't have that depth and you have injuries mount up, it really hurts you.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of on the topic of like Valhalla and some of the teams, let's kind of hop into how some of the other teams fared outside of Valhalla. So I'll just start here with UFT. I have in my notes here from some of the games we were watching. So honestly, I was like kind of from some of the film I'd seen posted on QC's YouTube channel. Honestly, really impressed. I thought they just seemed like walk a lot faster than in previous years. Some of the passing, like despite it being the first sort of outing for them since COVID started, I thought they were like relatively crisp in terms of like I thought it was going to be from every team was going to be pretty sloppier in terms of passing, but I thought they were pretty crisp overall. I also think the contact rules helped them in the sense of like I thought they were a lot more aggressive as well too. Like I think generally in the past they've been a relatively smaller team compared to other teams, but like some of the smaller players in the teams were not afraid to kind of go into contact and try to make some hits. So I thought that was really impressive from them. And then I know you mentioned, Brian, that Wills also did really well. I thought there was also another, wasn't able to catch the number, but relatively taller keeper that I thought did fantastic, especially in the game I saw when they were playing against US, actually, Brian, Royal City. I noticed that UFC didn't have BS for most of the game, I think, but I thought that the keeper did a phenomenal job of slowing the game down, really reading the defense that you guys are providing, and I thought he did fantastic, quite frankly. Wish I had his name, but
I don't remember either, but I do remember he beat me on the tip off, and I started the day 0-2 on tip offs. I was not like I'm not perfect, like I'm not expecting to win every single one, but like I know I'm one of the taller players in the league. There's no goal to like match up. A lot of people are going to be like within an inch or two of me, plus or minus. So I feel like I compete against almost anyone in that range. But like I think that entire team, I had a couple inches on, and I think I had like 2 or 3 inches on him, and I just jumped way too early, and he just kind of like timed it way better and got it back. And I was like, oh well, that's 0 for 1 for Brian, 0 for 1. But yeah, it was he did great. I can't remember his name either. I'm gonna see if I could look it up real quick. But yeah, it was good to see that the passing was great. I think you brought up a good point, right? Like we're all familiar with 2-arm tackling. Like it's great. We love it. But it gives that advantage to smaller players, not necessarily becoming like better than larger players by any means, or any other player, but it's you are now, if you're like have that big size discrepancy, you have a chance. Like it's not that 2-arm significantly helps you. Like I feel like it brings the waters up for everyone, and seeing that, like if a team is willing to get in there and gang tackle, like you could take down basically anyone. So yeah, you really saw it with their kind of just like, okay, we're going all in, everyone's doing this, we got this. It was great. Let's see if I can find
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that was sort of the notes I had on U of T. I guess we can talk a little about Waterloo as well. So in their game against Waterloo and U of T, like you said, Ryan, there was the round robin where Waterloo took that game against U of T, and then in the sort of playoff round, if you will, U of T pulled out against Waterloo to finish third. So from my understanding, Waterloo was going with a relatively younger team, led by David Kazam and Alyssa. Alyssa also was on our podcast as well, so shout out to her. I thought she did really well. Had some great contact, excellent wraps. Again, really seeing the benefits of the 2-arm tackling for some of the smaller players, being able to kind of really be able to have an impact more of an impact in the game than when we see with the 1-arm tackling, which is really great to see. And then also, like I said earlier, the Waterloo Warriors kits were awesome. I thought they were fantastic.
Great. Like I don't think the old ones were bad by any means. I know we all remember the some of the number stuff on the back. Like there was, I think Gola had told me this a couple of years back, that there was a problem with printing and they printed like 5s and 2s upside down for something. So there was some issue, but the old ones looked great. They were fine. These looked really, really good. They had like a little like scale pattern on like the shoulder pads or something, and it looked really, really nice. Yeah. Let's see if I could.
Yeah, all they were sharp, and also I had my notes too as well. Again, it was a round robin game, Waterloo and U of T. Again, I couldn't see the name just from the footage, but I caught the number 9, male chaser from Waterloo, incredibly fast. So there was one opportunity where it was a fast break. That's a shout out to Penny and No Beers podcast. No, he was incredibly quick. They had quite a few chases like that as well, actually. Again, these players that I wasn't really able to recognize. But again, I think it's just because Waterloo did go in with a relatively younger roster for the Divisionals. So yeah, shout out to number 9. I'm pretty sure he ended up scoring on that play as well for some athleticism.
I have a name. It was Levi Medeiros, I believe. He was actually at TC. So shout out to Levi.
Nice.
Great guy. Damn friggin' great endurance. They did the yo-yo, which is kind of like the beep test, and he basically lasted as long as Howie did, and that was way longer than I did. But yeah, great endurance, great speed, great like good game sense. Like he knew what he was doing, and yeah, it was a great effort by him, and he played a great tournament. I also, real quick, I just want to shout out Nasiah Cyrus. I believe I'm saying her name correctly. Great weekend. She absolutely killed it. Ball handling skills was good. She was trucking through people. She was putting shots on net. Like great game. Like just shout out to her. She absolutely killed it.
Yeah, awesome. So then, yeah, we'll head in second place then with your team, Ryan, Real City. Some of the notes I had from the games you guys are playing in.
Give it to me, Gabe. What did I do?
Yo, you did. You were awesome. It was great to see you back out there, as well as a friend of the show, Kyle Ross, repping the Royal City. It was weird. Definitely, I will admit, it was very weird seeing Kyle in the 12 colors.
It would be.
But no, it was good to see both of you guys back on the pitch. I thought you guys did fantastic. And then I also had two numbers. So number 48, number 96, the Beaters. In particular, was in the final game against Valhalla. They were in some phenomenal battles. I think one of them, there was, I think it was the, what is he, number 48? I wish I had names, but I think she was in a battle with Sam McCall. It was awesome to see that. Because again, in a final game like that, I mean, in years past, so Guelph and Valhalla beater games have been like considering that we're all chasers, it's something that I've been really trying to appreciate more, especially in those crucial games. And I thought they did a fantastic job kind of holding their own against some of the best beaters in Canada. In particular, Sam, and then also Sugar as well. Sugar was everywhere in that final game as well. So I had that, and oh yes, I didn't catch a number, but it was one of the non-male chasers on Royal City, relatively smaller female on the team. She was fantastic. I think there was one play. It was in the UFT round robin game, I believe. Where she had some great passes like across the hoops, like to chasers like wide open and by the side hoops, and I thought she did phenomenal. So shout out to her. I wish I don't have a number, but
I have some names off the top of my head. So the girl you were just talking about, Emma Starrett, I believe is who you're describing, because she made a couple like end-to-end runs, absolutely just great with it. Her passing's good. I believe her background's in soccer, and she's really good like knowledge of space. Whether that's from soccer or not, but yeah, she really did great there. And then beater wise with Royal City, I think there was only like 3 actual beaters, and then we put Brooke Walker in because she had experience beating, and then she got hurt, and we had also had Kyle in for a while when we had Aiden, who was one of our old he started the same year I did. He was one of the old captains for Royal City. He had to go, so Kyle filled in there, and then it was Ryan Babincy and Naomi Goddard, who were the pair I believe you're describing earlier, the numbers. But yeah, they really showed up, and I think it really shows when you have those beaters with experience. Like, some people come in with like lots of natural ability and kind of figure stuff out really fast, but like little things that you've picked up over the years, like Sugar really showed this weekend to be a top like beater in the league. And I think with experience wise where he sits and where he understands the game, not saying he's not talented by any means, he's great. He knows his stuff inside and out, and he has great athletic skills, great everything. But that experience alone, he can pull a lot of things that other beaters aren't even able to think of, because he doesn't realize like, oh, if this ball is going to go out of bounds, I should focus on this. If this player is going to be moving that way, like, he has a lot of experience to draw from, and it just works out great.
Yeah. Was Royal City like a 50-50 split of like Guelph players, Royal City players, like mainly Royal City players, or kind of just like whoever was available from the school?
Without getting them in trouble, from the best of our understanding, is it was a bunch of people in Guelph who play Quidditch, and I believe they weren't able to use the name University of Guelph. So as Royal City, they are no affiliation to Guelph name-wise, so that's the team they went with. It was a fair amount of players who were kind of like, I'd say it was like 2/3 Guelph or like former Guelph players, and a third Royal City or former Royal City players. And then a couple of us sprinkled in, myself, Kyle, Sinan, and Claire. But yeah, it was a good mix of people. I think we had good experience, and like everyone was kind of getting good reps in. But yeah, it was not having that same amount of practice. I think that's kind of hurt us a little bit, not being able to gel right away. We did fairly well, and we've had experience playing with each other in the past, but pandemic usually makes that kind of go away time wise. But yeah, it was good. It was fun. On to Valhalla.
We'll wrap up with Valhalla. I think, again, we mentioned earlier just the fact that they had the tournament beforehand coming into divisionals, which I think is a huge plus for them. Also, just the fact that they've been together for so long. Lots of familiar faces. I written down Custer's, Speedy's ever. Again, Sugar. I literally, every time I was watching the beater game, he seemed to be on the field and literally everywhere. So
Can I just say,
yeah,
naughty Custers? He got a red card.
yeah,
Yeah, you go. It was the break call.
Mhm.
It was helpless receiver call. I don't
Yeah.
think it was by no means malicious. It's just he was still landing. He made the hit, and it was like, well, that's a red. That's what the rules are, and it's called correctly. But yeah,
Yeah.
naughty Custers. How dare you?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, again, it's Valhalla just kind of showed their experience together. Again, I'm sure they've been able to practice. Unfortunately, because of COVID, things are different from university to university. So, but I mean, congratulations to them for a great weekend. I don't know if you had any other sort of points from their teams, sort of people that you sort of noticed that did really well the weekend.
Um, Joanna Lamb. From what I'm aware, and I picked this up from just random talk with people. I believe she's a player who played in Canada way back, lived in and played in the U.S. I believe in California for a couple of years, and she's back in Toronto area now and joined Valhalla. She killed it. She was great. I don't know exactly how much experience wise, like if she was playing all the time or what her record is or who exactly she played for. But she was great. I think he's a rookie, Joseph Laderkai. I don't know how to pronounce. I'm sorry, but he was good. Trying to remember who else was there. They were short a couple players that went there. Brittany Kane always playing great. Emma Sherwood played great. I don't remember if I saw Sam McCall there for some reason. I don't know if she played a ton or what, or maybe I just didn't match up against her a lot. But
Yeah, I think I saw her, but yeah, I don't think she was on a ton. But I think I did see her, maybe, unless it was someone who looked like Sam McCall. I don't know, but
yeah, I can't remember. But I know Sam would play great anyways. But
yeah,
Brittany and Emma both had solid tournaments there. So, and Joanna Lamb as well. So shout out to the three of them and Joseph, as I mentioned earlier.
I think Derek Taylor would be another name to mention. He was definitely noticeable at the Ravens Rumble when we played against him. He played a lot of big minutes for them.
I think it's weird to see Derek now back in the Quaffle side again.
Yeah,
I know he played Chaser for so long, and I think some keeping, but then he swapped to beating the year before the pandemic, and then is now back beating or sorry, is keeping again. And he played great. I don't know if Otana will be mad if I take out some little strategy that I noticed, but their typical keepers weren't playing keeper for most of the tournament, and their typical chasers were playing keeper instead. For anyone who's astute and wants to know why, I will say that the keeper zone exists, and if you want your point chaser not to get beat out constantly, you make that person your keeper. If you don't want your keeper to be there, change who's who. I think that's enough to kind of figure it out. But that I think was a big reason of what got implemented there, and I agree. I think that's a solid strategy with an organized team that's like knows what they're doing and has practice with it. Totally makes sense, and I would copy it if I had showed up to a lot of practices. But yeah, I think seeing him keeping it's good. Like he's not super tall, but he's not super short. He has good athleticism. He can get side to side. I keep forgetting the whole like distance for the increased distance for the hoops exists. So like every time I try to jump to the side, I was like, oh, this seems a lot farther than I remember. It's MLQ spec now. But yeah, he had a great tournament. I totally agree, Nate. Spot on.
Awesome. Yeah. So again, congratulations to Valhalla on the Central Divis win, and I'm sure we'll see them, and like we'll hopefully see the rest of the teams as well throughout the QC season. So with that, we'll kind of transition into speaking of QC, we'll kind of transition to TC, so Team Canada updates. For those that haven't or that aren't sort of part of the email list, or maybe they just don't know like what's going on. We're going to kind of touch briefly on some of the updates from the email they recently sent out with regards to like October and November sort of communications. Real quick here. So one of the points was the Discord. So if you aren't on the email list for some reason, or you just kind of want to learn more about what's going on with Team Canada and sort of the national team, there is a Discord that is live, I think. So that's kind of where I think they're going to start transitioning a lot of their communications for Team Canada related information. So if you aren't on the email list and you want to learn more about Team Canada and you want to kind of be more part of that, hop over onto Discord. From our understanding, that's where a lot of the communications are going to be transitioning to. Another point as well was the fitness related stuff. So Savannah and CV are doing a great job with that, providing some great programming and sort of exercises and stuff like that for Team Canada related stuff. So and Quidditch related sort of fitness in general. So shout out to them for all the great work they're doing for Team Canada. November practice. I don't know if you guys want to quickly touch on sort of the event that's happening in November, the WISE event. Maybe give a little more insight into that and how it's kind of going to be. Hopefully, like I know that in the email it said that sort of field space is kind of tough in that area. I believe it's in Mississauga, right?
Yes.
Mississauga.
Yeah, it's in Huron Park, which is like the southeastern part of Mississauga off the top of my head. It's like south of Square One.
Okay.
Yeah, easy access to highways. I haven't been there in forever.
According to Top Score, it's the Invader Sportsplex. Yeah.
Yep.
If you're familiar with that location, then...
Mississauga.
So the WISE event. Sorry, do you guys want to quickly just briefly touch on what that is?
So basically, it's a skills workshop for non-male players, just to kind of simplify it that way. So it'd be like a mix of like drills and skills for the first part of the afternoon. I think it's according to Top Score, it's 1:30 to 5, so 3.5 hour event. Nice. And then it'll end off with like an hour worth of scrimmages. So it's kind of just like building your skills, getting to meet other players within QC on the eastern side of the country, and then kind of just play together in scrimmages. Maybe getting the chance to play different positions. You don't get to play on your league team. But yeah, kind of just like a fun weekend with that. And then the second day, it's I believe it's a TC practice. So if you're there for both days, you kind of you're open to, or able to join that as well.
Yeah, Nate hit it on the head. It's great to see these events. If you're out there and thinking like, hey, I don't know if I'm doing anything this weekend, more or less, if you're at least in the Central Division, I would say take a look, come out. It's a great thing to see. If you're from farther away, come in for Saturday and then stay for Sunday for Team Canada. Talk to Howie or Tana. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the female players on our team, like besides 2 or 3 people, are going next weekend. So our practice are going to be pretty interested, having limited numbers of players to like meet the gender rule. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, if you're in the area, definitely check that out. Like I said, like we've kind of alluded to, even if you're not really sure, I think like you don't necessarily like have like aspirations of playing for Team Canada. Like it's still a really good opportunity to sort of connect and network with some people in QC, get to learn some new faces and make some new friends within the community. It's just a great way to also develop your skills as well. Like Nate had said there, like there's going to be opportunities to play out of position that you normally be familiar with. So it's a really good opportunity to kind of learn more about the sport as a whole and just get to know more people in the community, which is awesome. So there's that to look forward to in November. And also, so they also made note about the selection process. So for those that are more interested in sort of being part of Team Canada, from our understanding, the policy, like the selection policy, will be released ASAP with regards to sort of the more specifics of making Team Canada. And then the Pan Am selection, I believe they're aiming for December, January timeframe. for the announcement of who will be representing Team Canada for Pan Ams, which is this summer, right?
Summer of 2022.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
22 or 23?
22, because 23 will be
Oh, yeah,
World
okay,
Cup.
World Cup.
Please let it be World Cup.
Yeah.
I believe off the top of my head, Nate, I think you might know as well. I think it's Mexico City. Yeah.
For
Pan.
Pan Ams?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Might be
Because
wrong.
World Cup is in Richmond, right? Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah.
In 2023.
Yeah, so Richmond, Virginia was supposed to be the 2020 bid. And then obviously that did not happen. 2021 obviously did not happen. And then originally World Cup was going to be 2022. But I think they said, we're not sure. And we'd rather take the risk with a Pan American / Pan Asian / Euros that year, because that seems more likely to like have less travel. And
Mhm.
if it gets canceled, that's one thing, but we can guarantee that the following year is a like possibility with World Cup. So I believe, if anyone has a chance to look it up, but yeah,
I'm trying to see if I can find it. But... So I see an update from the summer, like August, that they started like to open the bid for 2022, but I don't see where they actually like officially announced who won that bid.
So as of our understanding, we think it's Mexico City then?
I believe it's Mexico City. I hope it's
Anywhere-
Mexico City.
Anywhere
And
but Canada. Let's say that. Anywhere but Canada.
I'll take Canada. I'll take the less travel costs if I make it. Like that'd be
Well,
great.
I'm just like saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's anywhere, but like I don't think they announced anywhere in this country for it. I think it's down in the States for sure.
I think I found the same article as you guys. Yeah, no, I haven't seen anything. There's just the talk about the bids, but
Okay. Well, as soon as we know, we'll let you guys know. But yeah, so if you are interested, yeah, hopefully they'll be able to announce sort of what the team's kind of looking like in December or January. So if you are interested, it's going to reach out to Howie and Atana about sort of how to hopefully be. Oh, I mean, hopefully you've already kind of done that if you're interested in making the team, but reach out to them if you're more kind of interested in learning more about the process of trying out for and trying to make the team. Yeah, so that's sort of the brief TC updates, and then we'll kind of transition into our last sort of talking point for this episode, which is MLQ championship bids. So for those that didn't see, on October 29th, MLQ had announced that they were extending the application process or bid process for the championship weekend, like for cities to host. So in that post, they had said that December 1st is going to be the new deadline to apply or make a bid for hosting MLQ Championships 2022. And then January 1st, they're going to announce the finalists, the final cities that have been successful in placing a bid for the championship weekend. And then February 1st of 2022 is when we're going to find out where we'll be heading, hopefully Toronto and Ottawa, fingers crossed, to championship weekend. It likely will be in August 2022 for MLQ. So we thought it'd be kind of fun to, and MLQ is still a few months away, but sort of saying where we would love to have, or love to see rather, MLQ championship weekend be hosted. I don't know if you guys had a chance to think about sort of cities that you'd like to see it be hosted in. It can be any city, like I mean, within the U.S. and Canada, obviously, hopefully, but yeah, like a while. I don't know if you guys had a chance to think about it, but
I have it two on the top of my head. I'll do one for each country. So like Canada, I would say Toronto, just because the culture that we offer, and of course we have a team in that city, so that does make sense as well. Having the Raiders host as the host team, and then just having the American teams able to come up and kind of experience the Canadian culture during the summer, which is really nice weather in Toronto. So of course there's a lot to do downtown and to experience. So I think it's a great location to host the championship weekend tournament. I I guess it depends on where they want to actually have that take place, because I'm sure with finding like a pitch or some sort of dome to actually have it at, that may take some time to figure out. But of course, there's people that are kind of on top of that. And then in the States, I'm gonna go out west to California. So let's say
Oh,
LA.
you took my answer.
So the nice weather, of course, for us Canadians. I mean, it's summer for us as well, but it'll be nice to be able to experience that weather, that sort of atmosphere there, and then maybe it'll help bring back the Western Division from MLQ. So that'll be pretty cool too as well.
Yeah, Nate, you stole my silly answer. That's exactly what I was gonna say. On a serious note, I think off the top of my head, so the last couple places, realistically, this year was in Maryland, correct? Or Maryland or close there. The following year was in it was not existed, and then it was in Richmond, and then it was Milwaukee or Wisconsin somewhere.
Madison, Wisconsin was. Yeah, that one.
Okay, that's the last couple. So it hasn't been down south in a while, and let's like in a serious note here. I think with a lot of the political stuff that's going on, I honestly would have thought prior to the world going crazy, whatnot, they would have considered the South. Like Texas has had stuff before. Texas teams are always competitive, but I think with certain bills that have been passed, not to get too political, I think there's not really going to have any chance of a major event like that being held in Texas, and likewise for Florida, although there's no MLQ team there. So I'm considering that, but I think with what's going on in the world, I don't think those are possibilities. I would love to see it in Charlotte, North Carolina. However, I think Charlotte showed out last year. I think I've been North and South Carolina in the past, beautiful areas, and I think it would be a great opportunity to just really show that area off, and warm weather. And there is or at least somewhere, maybe not Charlotte exactly, but somewhere close by, I think you can get away with. It would be cool. But yeah, that's my thought for
those solid picks. I also had put for Canadian City, I put Toronto as well. So Nate kind of nailed my head the reasons why there. I think a big one just being the cultural, multicultural aspects of Toronto, and I think it'd be a really good opportunity for MLQ to highlight some of the Canadian game. I kind of bring all the American teams up to Canada. I think that'd be awesome. So whoever Toronto Raiders get going with the bid for Toronto, but and then in terms of the American cities, I also kind of thought about what logistically it would look like to have something in Texas. But again, I think I'd kind of, for similar reasons that you've mentioned, Brian, I kind of steered away from that. So I also had Boston on the list as well. I think Boston, having gone to Boston a few years ago with the Black Bears, Boston's beautiful. I'd love to have see MLQ Championship weekend in Boston. It'd be really cool. And then also sort of wild card, I put Seattle. I think it'd be really cool to have something in Seattle. I think Seattle would be a really good. Again, if they were to bring MLQ championships or MLQ as a whole of the league back out to the West, I think Seattle would be a really good spot West. And then if we were also kind of expanding over to the Canadian side, something in Vancouver would be really cool as well. So those are the picks that I had for MLQ Championship weekend bids. February 1st, 2022, we'll figure out exactly where, hopefully, Raiders and Blackbirds will be headed for Championship weekend in August. So to wrap up this episode of the podcast, boys, we will have our Who Were the Touque segment. So for those who aren't familiar, we kind of started this towards the tail end of last season's podcast. But it's kind of being borrowed from our good friends at the Steve Dangle podcast, where they had the Who Wore the Crown segment, where they would give sort of a hypothetical crown to sort of their MVP of the week. within the NHL or the hockey community. So we're going to extend that to being in this Canadian podcast. We're going to be having a Touque, and we're going to be giving it out to who we think deserves sort of our Touque, if you will, for their sort of play or sort of achievements within the Quidditch community for the week of Quidditch that was. So I don't know who wants to start out with. They're giving out their Touque. I don't know.
I guess that one.
You guys have with someone?
Yep. Well, mine's more of a organization. So I would go with Quidditch Canada for organizing 2 successful divisional tournaments. Of course, we'll talk on the Eastern one in a future episode. But from what I hear from the Central and then playing in the Eastern one, they're both organized very well. Yeah, like everything went pretty smoothly with timing and everything, well, for the most part. And it was kind of just a great way to get back into Quidditch in the country because besides Black Bears, there really wasn't much going on for Quidditch in Canada, I guess, besides TC. But for most people, most locations, there really wasn't much going on. So just getting able to organize those 2 events to kick things off for this season in a successful manner was really good to see an experience.
Yeah, you kind of stole my answer again.
Again.
You must have before the podcast and coordinated.
I know. I'll narrow it down though. A big specific shout out to Alex Downey Gin, killing it as always. Was basically the organizer. Is working behind the scenes, or maybe in front of the. She's working and organizing all these events, including the Wise event that we talked about earlier. But it's great to have great people doing great things for Quidditch Canada. But yeah, Touque to you.
Awesome. I went with a player again. I mentioned it earlier. Again, really sorry. I don't know the name, but it was the Toronto keeper that we highlighted earlier on. I thought he did phenomenal for UFT. It was a great showing for them, finishing 3rd in the tournament. But yeah, I thought he was a huge part of sort of their success of the weekend. Again, even when UFT didn't have BS for large parts of some of the games, I thought he did a phenomenal job sort of running the offense. So again, my Touque goes out to you. Great job. And yeah, just a great weekend of Quidditch for what was Central Divisionals. And again, shout out to Valhalla for their Central Divisional victory. But yeah, with that, I think we'll wrap it up. It was a great sort of episode 2 of the NBP No Beaters podcast. I quickly want to plug our socials here. So I think we're still under the CQQC. We will update that. So right now it's still CQQC_podcast. So follow us there on Instagram to stay up to date on sort of our changing branding, if you will, for the NBP. And yeah, we'll be back next weekend to talk about Eastern Divisional highlights, as well as other things that are happening in the Quidditch community. So with that, we'll wrap it up and we'll see everyone next week.